That's funny. All right, we are live. Okay, so first question: do you know any good drummer jokes?
Any good any good drummer jokes besides drummers?
What do you call a guy that hangs out with a bunch of musicians?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. What do you what do you call a drummer without a girlfriend?
Homeless?
Yep.
Yeah, drummer.
Uh,
Fun. I figured we'd do a couple of drummer jokes while people are joining.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Any other music jokes you got?
There's a couple of accordion jokes that my dad's an accordion player and they would always kind of razz him with some accordion jokes. One of them was along the lines of I had my accordion in the back of my car, and last night my car got broken into, and when I went to go check, there was another accordion in there.
Dude, one time, this is a true story. I was in college in San Luis Obispo. My car was parked on the side of the street, just on a road or whatever, and I forgot to lock my doors. And I was super tired. I was holding a cup of coffee, and when I literally I opened my door, a guy fell out, like some drunk kind of homeless guy sleeping in the driver's seat of my car, and he kind of fell out and scared me. I walked away.
That's insane. That's funny.
Yeah. All right. We have some viewers now. Cool. All right, so, everybody, I'm Bradley QSZ. I'm here with Steve Maggiora.
What's up? What's up? Yes, sir.
Get it right. And Steve is a musician, singer-songwriter, producer, sound guy. What else? Keyboard player.
Yeah.
And all-around good guy, right?
I hope so. I've been getting pretty good at cooking too during this pandemic.
Sweet.
Which has been fantastic.
So I have a lot of friends that have gotten in way better shape during the pandemic, but I have not. I have gained a few pounds, and I'm definitely not in better shape now.
I'm right there with you, Brad. I don't think I've done the quarantine 15 yet, but I've definitely done the quarantine 12, 11 or 12.
I've definitely hit about 5. Probably my cardio is not as good either, but oh well, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, yeah. The only time that I run is when I run out of booze.
All right, so some of the things that Steve's involved with, he has his own music. Is it SteveMaggiora.com?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, new website. Just check. You got to go check it out. I'll put it in the chat. SteveMaggiora.com. Go check him out. Follow him on Instagram, all that stuff. He's also a keyboard player for Robert Jon and the Wreck, which is I call it Southern rock style original music. Would you say that, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's rock and roll. It's a blend of rock and roll, soul, country, Southern rock. Kind of, yeah. It's a bunch. Lots of harmonies, slide guitar, really great energy, and yeah.
Steve Maggiora.com. Okay, so and then and you just became the newest member of, can I say this?
Yeah.
The band Toto, right?
I am indeed. Yes.
So awesome, dude.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we've got a broadcast stream going on Saturday. This Saturday coming up, November 21st. Which, Brad, I'll send you the details if you want to post that up.
Yeah, man. Or can you post in the comments?
I'm not seeing a comment thing that I can.
All right, there's
toss in there, but
anyway, maybe I can only do that. All right, so let's
need a link for that though.
Dive into it. So Steve is also a TouchMix user.
I am.
You use TouchMix 8, 16, and 30 Pro for a variety of things. Let's talk. I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about some of your tips, tricks, processes when you run sound from stage. Some of the things maybe just if you have like a general process of when you like load in and do line check and sound check, and some of the things you do when you're kind of setting up and getting ready to play to an audience.
Yeah, it always kind of differs depending on if I have people working with me or if I'm just setting up the entire rig by myself, which a lot of times it happens both ways.
Yeah.
Normally what I do is I normally put vocals on the first couple channels. And then I will continue with it'll be like vocals and vocals, guitars, keyboards and stuff on the 1 through 8, and then continuing on the 9 through 16 channels. And then I'll just start with drums normally on the 9 through 16.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's like a smaller number of inputs, in which I'll put, if I'm not miking up the entire drum kit, I'll end up doing, for Robert Jon and the Wreck, I'll do vocals 1 through 4, and then kick on 5, snare on 6. Like probably, I think we had bass on 7 there and guitar on 8, because not all of the mics that I'm using for that band are always going to the front of house PA. Right. Sometimes if we're streaming it, like it's not going to be in the PA at all because we don't need to hear it.
Right.
But it might need to be in, if we're playing live and streaming at the same time, you need to have that extra coverage because you're not hearing the PA, you're coming out of the output of secondary outputs and stuff. So
yeah. So let's talk about that situation, because I think that's pretty interesting, and I think a lot of people. Well, I had a bunch of preconceived ideas until I had more experience, and now I have a different kind of thought process with it. But like when you play a bar or a restaurant or a venue where it's fairly small, so a lot of acoustic amplification, like a guitar amp and drums and all this stuff, is loud in the room as it is.
Mm-hmm.
How, like, what's the threshold, or when do you decide to like mic guitar amps and when do you not mic guitar amps, or put the bass through the PA or whatever, if the bass player has a bass amp?
Depending on it, for me it always depends. Like, well, let's talk about like the first time you play a room, because you get to know certain rooms over time and you know what works and what doesn't, just based off of their crowd and stuff. But if I'm walking in fresh into a room, most of the time I'll mic up everything and then just not use it.
Yeah, right.
Another cool thing with the touch mix is that you can record straight from there. So I might just mic up everything, get decent level, and then just record everything to a flash drive, pre-fader, and so that I could use it for later. But for the most part, I'll mic up a guitar, and if I can still hear the guitar fine from where I'm sitting, and it's balanced well from my position, then I won't turn it up.
Yeah.
Or I might just sneak it in a little bit if it's a bigger stage, but or a bigger setup area, but it's not bigger setup area but smaller room. I might just, and I'm using 2 speakers as PA.
Yeah.
Which often isn't the case for smaller rooms. Most of the time I just use 1 K10 and come out of that just mono.
Yeah.
And let the guitar amp just be the guitar amp, be the speaker for that. But
the first time, so I lived in Louisiana for about 9 years and played a bunch of bands when I was there. But before that, I was always wanting to mic everything and put everything through the PA. And when I started playing with this one guy, he had a pretty big guitar amp, and the bass player had like an SVT refrigerator, right? And he mic'd kick and maybe 1 overhead, and then let the amps just do all the reinforcement, because they played loud, man.
Oh, yeah.
Cranked their amps up, And I was kind of like, well, it makes a lot of sense if you can get away with, I think, allowing the amps just to not like allowing those instruments not to be in the mains, because I feel like you could get cleaner vocals and stuff like that if they can fill the room up, as but just by themselves,
Oh, for sure. The only problem that you get into is when you if it's not a raised stage and it's not hitting people in the face and coming over the top of them,
Yeah.
then
The people in the back.
that sound stops, like six rows in.
Yeah,
And
right.
the people in the back aren't hearing any of the lead guitar. They're just hearing what's coming in over the top.
Yeah.
And that just comes down to the flexibility of the guitar players.
Albert Margolis, right?
What's that?
Do you know Albert Margolis?
Oh yeah. What's up, Albert?
Hey dudes. What's up?
What's up, man?
How long have you known Albert? He plays good keys.
He's incredible, man. Watching him is like taking a master class, dude. I always try to pick up at least one or two new tricks every time I see him play. I've known Albert for probably 5 or 6 years now.
I'm probably 25 years.
Nice.
Over 20 years I've known him. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude. You're a good dude, Albert.
Yeah.
Miss you, man.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Let's talk about what time is it? Okay, yeah, we have tons of time. I have this process of like setting up that I always follow, as far as like, first I like to get the big items, like the footprint of the speakers, speaker stands, amps, where the drums are, kind of define that stuff, lay those in the right spots. And then I run power, and then I have like power drop spots that I always like to have. What's kind of your process for setting up?
I think
doing line check, I guess.
I think it's about the same, man. Big stuff first. You want to let me put it this way. The most difficult thing to do is move things around once everything is plugged in.
Right.
So if you think about it that way, start with the big ticket items. Start with your subs, your PA. Start with the drum kit. Like if you're going into, again, assuming that you're going into a brand new space, you haven't played before, you haven't set up before. I like to get all of like the PA first, just kind of in there so that we know where that is. And then just set up the instruments, like set up the even if it's just the kick drum and the drum throne, the keyboard stand without the keyboard on it, guitar cabs and stuff, just kind of staged in place so you can make sure that everybody's got enough space and comfortable in the band. Just as a sound guy, if you're not also in the band, just having the PA set up so that people know where things are.
Yeah.
Because monitors you can throw around wherever you want, but you want to make sure that everything's kind of out of the way. Most of the time you're going to be putting the PA like on the front line, towards the edge of downstage or on the floor in front of the stage. But being in a band, sometimes it's easier if you don't have a lot of room for monitors. I just end up tossing the speakers on the back line and then kind of XYing them so that they become our monitors.
Yeah.
And then run the feedback wizard and just get that stuff knocked out in like 25 seconds.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So then you can,
But I normally do that. The big ticket items, front of house, where your mix position is, which all depends on power for the most part. Then I run power. I do that second, and we've got a frontline power and backline power string that everything plugs into. Yeah. And for us, with what we're running with, a couple K10s, 4K, 2K10s for monitors, 2K8s, the wedges, the 8.2s for monitors, and then whatever we're using for front of house. Normally we can run the whole band off of one circuit and be totally fine, which is killer.
Yep.
Absolutely killer.
that's like one of the cool things about QSC stuff is in general the Ks and they you can get I think 6 loudspeakers easily off of one 15 amp circuit.
Yeah.
That is cool. Like I've been in a lot of, well, not a lot, but I've been in certain situations where you have to request multiple circuits or a certain size circuit, and so that's one of the cool things. Yeah, the power stuff.
Most of the places that I've been to, like on the West Coast, it doesn't start getting tricky until you start to get more into like rural Midwest. And then like some places on the East Coast just have these, the buildings are hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
And so the power is just, crazy, and it's been changed so many times, but it's all DIY stuff that's happened over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, yeah, just one circuit, unless it's more convenient to plug in a power strip into.
So we got a good question from a guy named Angel or Angel. Which is the best way to connect the subs and the tops separate? ? So how do you do subs when you need them or when you use them?
Normally, I run to the sub first and then split up from the sub to the speaker.
Yeah.
That's how I was taught to do it, and that makes the most sense. But if you want to run them separately, which I'm not sure if that's your question. Normally, all I do is I'd send just a pre-fader or post fader, depending on how you want to run it. Send just to that sub out of one of the auxiliaries.
Yeah, that's.
And then if you have one sub, you just run it to that. If you have 2 subs, just link the 2, and it'll be the same, because most of the time you're running a mono mix anyway for front of house. So you don't really need a lot of spatial things going on, because you don't want, as a mix engineer for live, if you're mixing in stereo, you've got this one dude over here that's only hearing cowbell, but none of the tambourine.
Yeah.
And while that could be cool from your mix position, to hear it like that, you got to realize people are going to be standing right in front of the speaker and being like, why can't I hear this? It's like, well, you're right in front of the speaker, dude.
Right. Yeah. So there's really 2 ways to run subs, right? Main outs into the subs first, and then go up to the tops. And that basically what you're getting is everything going through the mains is also going to be going through the subs. That's one way. That's pretty simple. Then the other way to do it, like you described, is using the subs on an aux. And, let's say aux 3, you connect to one sub and then maybe over to the other one, daisy chain them. But what you can do there is you can control what channels separately are going to be going into the subs only. So a lot of people, they'll run just bass guitar and kick through the subs, and they won't put any other instruments or
a little bit of toms. I always like to add a little bit of toms into the subs, just for a little extra. Doom, 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 doom.
Yeah. So I like doing it that way, but it is it's just like another step or something to remember when you're kind of adjusting your PA, tweaking things. You got to remember stuff's on the sub, But anyway, I think that those are the kind of 2 ways. Let's talk about monitors. Oh, wait, no, we're still not done, I guess, talking about after you lay power.
Yeah. So after I lay power, I have the band get set up, right? And I'm like, cool, here's all your power. Here's this, that, and the other. I'll set DI boxes where they need to be, but I don't normally cable anything up until after everybody's set. So that you can set up around them. You can keep the stage nice and clean and everything. And then I'll put, mic stands, place the mics on there. Again, don't cable anything up until everybody's set and comfortable in their position. And then just run cabling and stuff. And monitors is like, cool, I'll have the, K10 or K8 just kind of standing up in front or on the side of where anybody is. And I'm like, hey, just, move this to where you need to. And then I'll connect power to it and run the cabling like as soon as you're set and comfy.
Yep. And then do you do like check your speakers and monitors before you do all the line check, or do you just kind of do it all at once?
I do it all at once for the most part, unless I've got time beforehand in the room by myself to run the feedback wizard.
Yeah, I see.
And then I'll dial it in. But a lot of times when you walk into rooms, like the club's already open, people are sitting there chilling. Like you don't really want to run a bunch of feedback
Yeah.
through, while people are trying to eat their Cobb salad or
Yeah, exactly.
something at a bar. But
You don't want to be ringing out monitors in front of patrons, probably.
yeah. And you don't want to kick them out just to bring them back in so that you can have the room to yourself for a little bit. But,
yeah, sometimes that's not possible.
yeah.
Okay. Then one of the things I noticed when you guys came over and I ran sound for you guys is, so Robert Jon and the Wreck is it 5 or 6 people?
It was 6 with you.
Oh, okay, so
5. Brad sat in with us for a couple of tunes, and that was so fun, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. But and you generally run 4 wedges, is that right? Or is it 5 wedges? Everyone has a wedge.
Normally 4, just because our bass player Warren doesn't typically sing. Sometimes I'll put a mic out for him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't typically sing, so he doesn't typically use a wedge unless we're doing a bigger festival gig and there's just more space and
yeah,
you can have a little more clarity.
So one of the things about Robert Jon is all 4 guys except Warren, everyone sings, and you guys sing harmonies, and it's like there's a lot of vocals happening. And one of the things I noticed, you brought, I don't know if we used your mixer or if you just brought a scene and we copied it on. I can't remember. I think that's what we did.
Yeah, we used your mixer, and then I just copied the scene from our mixer onto a USB key and transferred it over.
Thing I noticed, so they Henry has a guitar amp, Warren has a bass amp, Robert has a guitar amp, and then in the monitor mixes was pretty much that person's vocal, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't, hey, give me kick in my monitor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Give me electric guitar in my monitor when the electric guitar is 1 foot away from me. You know, the thing. And that's one of the things that I mean, if you can just describe like your experience, and like I'm sure you guys all maybe at one point were asking for everything in the monitors, but then
absolutely.
Hey, wait, we probably, this is kind of, it's like fighting an uphill,
It is because what you're using monitors for ideally is clarity, is to be able to hear things better so that you know what's going on with your bandmates and with the people that you're performing with on stage, and you can hear yourself well enough to contribute at your highest level.
Yeah.
So if you keep adding all this everybody else's stuff in there, it's just you're adding more and more and more and more and more until your mix is so saturated that there's no clarity. It's all muddy, nothing's coming through clear, and then your stage volume just gets louder and louder and louder, which ends up bleeding back into the microphones, creating feedback loops and just going out of control. So, and we, I feel like everybody handles monitors differently, but as a band, we've spent a lot of time trying to dial in monitors in the rehearsal room so that we know what we need to hear, and it's, and it's been a long time of kind of messing with that, and what do you need to hear? Like I know that like I need a little bit of kick because I'm going direct, and the kick normally, depending on if we have subs or where those subs are, sometimes we're playing on a stage that's just so reverberant that he hits the kick and I can feel it in my heels, and that's thrilling.
Yeah.
But that's not everywhere. So I like a little bit of the slap from the kick just to let me know where I am and where the beat is, and so I can be more on time with the drummer.
Right.
But if you're listening to everybody else's vocals while that's a good thing for blend and stuff, if you can't hear your own vocal, you don't know if you're on or not.
Right.
So it might be a good thing because you feel more connected with everybody else, but the monitors to me are there as something to help you perform and execute at your highest level.
Yeah, and you kind of need to be a team player.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Kind of like everyone has to realize that super loud monitors is something that is a big struggle for, you know, whoever's mixing front of house and for the audience.
Mhm.
You know, like it's just going to be a battle. So even if, you know, the stages are bigger, you know, you may need a little bit of something in a monitor just because you want to be able to play together, but to like
Oh yeah.
have like a big, everyone has the loudest monitor level and everything in every monitor, and it's, you know, when you're on huge stages, it's less of a problem and you have total pros and stuff like that. But when you're in a restaurant or a bar or something like that, the more you can minimize that stage, because a lot of times you're in a corner and then the ceiling's low too, so that
Yeah.
even harder to deal with, you know.
Well, and however loud your stage volume is, the PA is going to have to be slightly louder than that in order to be clear and have that clarity. So the same issue that you go through on stage as a band with your monitor rig is the same thing that the front of house guy is going to have to do to try to blend whatever's coming out of your monitors and however loud your amps are.
Yeah.
And for a lot of that is and I hate to say it, I'm so sorry, guitar players, but y'all are the culprit of this the most in my experience. Where it's just, you know, well, no, like I have to turn up my amp to get the tone that I want. And it's like, but you're not playing the room, like you're playing for yourself here.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe bring a smaller
amp
and close mic it. And then, yeah, if you need to toss it in your monitor, like, but do all of that pre-work and that prep like at home or in the rehearsal room.
I mean,
you can't show up to like a 50-person bar with a, you know, with a dual, you know, combo stack and just rage, you know, like you could.
It happens with guitar and you know, every guitar player is like super into their tone. And I am too. I play guitar. But I found that tilting your amp back so that the speaker's pointed at your ear.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Instead of at your ankles or your calves, you get a way better idea of how you sound. It's just the guitar amps are really directional. And I also find, like, personally, I don't want to hit audience members direct with my amp speaker, you know, because it's like it's almost too direct. I like it to, you know, kind of be up in the air and swirl around a little more. I just feel like it just, that's my personal feeling. But I know guys are like, well, it has to couple with the ground. I like the more low end out of my amp when it's that way. But but it's one of those things you got to realize what, you know, that like you said, if it's too loud, it's trouble. It's like, it's kind of the not being a team player sort of.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, you know, as a keyboard player, I hardly ever bring an amp.
Yeah.
You know, I just go direct into the board most of the time, and I let the front of house guy do his thing. And, you know, if as long as I have enough of it coming back in my monitor, if I even have a monitor, there's some places that we've played out in Europe where the entire band's sharing one wedge. And so it ends up being, well, cool. Like, lead singer gets the wedge and the rest of us will, you know, we'll, instead of having monitors, we'll just wear like construction foam earplugs so that we can hear the resonance in our head and make sure that we're
right. Okay.
Like, I know my parts. This will be fun.
Another thing you touched on, which I think is really important just in general, is the monitors if the monitors are louder than the mains, which happens, right? I was like helping a guy do sound, and the artist wanted the monitor cranked. But the club couldn't have it cranked. So you're getting this sort of flappy, flippity flap echoing, and you're trying to control, like trying to get a clean mix, but the monitor's being so loud. It was
and it's pointing away from the audience and slapping off the back of the stage. So that's not a good situation to be in, man.
Yeah, and you're trying to like get a good mix, but it's like impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like trying to play piano with somebody sitting there, swiping on your fretboard.
Yeah.
Or play guitar with somebody swiping on your fretboard or something. Like it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, that reminds me. I was at Boathouse Collective helping Kyle, right? So Kyle, he had to do another event, and I was mixing in this band. It was kind of like their first public gig. And this is a noisy, pretty big, fairly big room, right? I mean, it's and anyway, so during
it's a large open space for those of you that haven't been there.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful room, and I've played there a lot too, and it's really, really fun to play. But it's definitely not the most sonically treated.
Yeah, it's all hard walls, and it's like a tube, and then there's an open ceiling. They have the KW153s with no subs, and then K12s as monitors. But so drums, bass, guitar, 2 singers, and keyboards. And so we were doing sound check, and I was trying to get their monitor levels. And so I was on stage with the iPad, and I asked the lead singer, "Hey, can you sing a little bit?" And so she gets up and starts singing real quiet, right? Like, So I'm like, "Okay, is that like how loud you sing, right?" She's like, "Yeah." So they start playing, and she just starts wailing like she's like Chris.
You're just reaching for the gain knob. You're not even worried about the fader. You're just straight to the gain knob.
The monitor was so loud, right? That's all you could hear was the monitor. And so the whole time I was trying to like get the monitor to a place where it was like she was comfortable and not screwing her up, but also trying to just balance, Anyway, do you find like when you're doing sound check, running sound and stuff like that, do you have to coach like musicians on like what should be monitors and stuff like that? And
if it's my first time working with a band or artist, and I'm the sound guy for the gig, I always start off with cool, like give me the loudest, your loudest tone, to the guitar player. Like, okay, cool, like play a full beat for me and go for that, But for one trick that I've started doing is just letting the band play and sing, and I'm like, hey, like I've got a little bit here and there, but why don't you go and just run through whatever you want to run through, or jam on something that has full vocals, and we'll just do one song of that, so I can kind of dial things in and get a feel for their sound. And then we can address all the monitor requests and stuff.
That's a good
from there. But at least that way, like they are performing, and it's not like, oh, well, it's sound check. And then sometimes you get the people that know that they like things a little bit louder, and they are used to getting talked to by the sound guy about turning down or dialing it back, and so they're like, oh yeah, this is my loudest tone. And then the show comes and they're like, turn it up to 11.
What is it with musicians? I think it's partially energy, but I also think that they don't trust the sound guy. But a lot of times they sandbag during sound check. They play really light or whatever, and then once the real show starts, it's like totally different. Why do they do that?
I think it comes down to just the being an artist thing, man. Like you have spent, because I kind of used to be this way a little bit. It's different for me as a keyboard player because I'm just going direct most of the time. But when I do have an amp, like, or I do bring in, a speaker or an amp to plug into, it's always also a lot of inexperienced sound guys ask people to turn down before they've heard everything in context with each other. So it's like, that might sound really loud right now, but like wait until you get it with the drums going and just the sound of the snare in you might not even need that snare mic. You know, that snare might fill up the entire thing and drown out everything else on stage, or that ride cymbal might be taking up that 600 to 20, thousand hertz.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just in and of itself, and washing everything else out. But yeah, it's when you spend so much time with your own gear, you feel like you know it better than anybody, and it's kind of a tough thing to hear somebody be like, I don't want to hear that as much.
Yeah.
Which isn't what they're saying, but that's sometimes what people hear. And I think that's where I assume that's where the sandbagging comes from.
Yeah. I also think that like a lot of times, at least growing up in bands, has kind of always been like a little bit of volume wars between band members. So as soon as drummer starts really rolling, then I feel like I can't hear myself, and then I'll turn up. But then the other guitarist can't hear himself, and then so it's kind of like this sort of war happening all night long, practically.
Yep.
And you kind of just have to, like, I guess, try to hold. Everyone has to just agree that some people are going to be louder than others at certain parts of the show or whatever, and you kind of have to work together or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you got to work together instead of.
Well, and again, as a band with Robert Jon and the Wreck, we've really been trying to do that in the rehearsal room. So it's like, we'll tell, Henry, if he's going for a lead, it's like, cool, like you need to have a boost, that triples your volume here, because the whole band's going full out at this moment, and like you can't, unless you have a sound guy that's worked with you and knows your sound. When I'm mixing from stage with them, I've got a mic on Henry that I only use for solos, and I'll just unmute it when it gets to his solo sometimes, just to boost it out.
Oh, that's
out
cool.
front.
Yeah.
But that was before. Now he controls those levels himself, and he'll turn his amp up and have, everything going through the pedals and on his tone knob, and play dynamically, and be able to have that headroom to take it forward. With my keyboards, like I'm constantly running at maybe about 10 o'clock on volume, and then I'll boost to like 5 o'clock for an organ solo, but I'll set my gain on the touch mix for the loudest that I'm going to get.
Overdrive the preamp, get the start, something like that. But you have some room to kind of like boost when you need it for solos and stuff.
And to be able to self-mix dynamically just in your performance. And it's we talk about it a lot with that band of, what is the focus? Like who is taking lead at this point? Because to me, good music always passes that around. It goes from, you've got the lyric, like you should be hearing the lead singer above everything else. If I'm over on the keys just hammering away at full volume without dipping it back a little bit, I'm stealing his spotlight.
Right.
And you're supposed to be listening to, at that moment, you're supposed to be listening to the lyrics of the song coming from the lead singer.
Right.
And then the next thing might be a little keyboard lick or something that's intended to pop out and take the lead. And then it goes back to the vocals, and then it goes to the drum fill, and then it goes to a little bass fill, and, really tossing the focus around. But you have to, the best way for that to happen is for the musicians to do it themselves.
Right. Totally agree. Totally agree. And so that
it makes the sound guy's job easier too, because as much as I love being an active mixer and, chasing people around and writing faders and stuff, it's so nice when you can just like get a mix dialed in and you're like, oh man, like the band's doing all the work right now. Right. They're actually playing dynamically. They're actually,
Yeah.
And then you can start to mess with spatial effects and reverbs and delays and.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's all great stuff. I find myself I mix at our church maybe once a month. It's like contemporary Christian music, and nobody's a professional musician that's playing, right? And it just feels like every song I'm having to kind of like really like kind of tweak here and there, because the musicians just don't they're not like that well practiced like you guys are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what does seem to help that and make kind of like matters a little better is they're all on an in-ear system that they're kind of mixing themselves. They're getting the same levels, and they're able to mix themselves a little bit, but like invariably the drum anyway. It's a long story, but you know what I mean. Like you go from like a hymn to kind of like more of a rock song.
Yeah.
And, you know, the drummer's playing differently. It's like having to actively mix quite a bit.
Yeah.
From song to song. Yeah.
Well, and that's inevitable, because no two songs are going to be exactly alike.
Right.
And there's always going to be a little bit of finagling that's going to have to happen in order to get things to sound the way that they should sound, subjectively by the, for the mix engineer.
Yeah. Okay. I got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to answer. Eric Jimenez asks, okay, so I don't know the exact answer to this, but I'm going to read the question and answer, and maybe you have some info on this. So you know how there's like on a K speaker, K.2, there's inputs A, B, and then C, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he says, what about sending two signals to channel A and channel B at the same gain? I find it gives more punch or more volume to the K12.2. I haven't done this at a gig, but I did when I was trying them at home. Can something go wrong? So that's generally designed to send two different signals, whether it's guitar and vocal, or if you're playing like a stereo program music, left and right, or left and right keys or whatever. So you're getting, both sides. It won't make it louder. And I've actually the Wayfarer, right? A long time ago, they were burning out their KW122s.
Yeah.
They were permanently installed in the corners of, where the ceilings are around the bar. And they're like, oh yeah, our amp died. And so they were running full blast A and B at the same time with both inputs coming from the mixer as a mono feed. So it's like, anyway, I know it's troublesome to do that, but I don't know exactly why.
Well, I think you're just overloading it, right? Because most of the QSC speakers have built-in limiters, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably just a matter of like, if you're constantly overloading it. I love the fact that QSC's got those built-in limiters and stuff, because it's saved me from blowing out so many speakers over the years. And
they last so much longer because of it too,
Yeah, but they don't last forever if you're constantly, having to limit it, man. You're just, I think you're just making your speaker work way too hard.
Yeah.
For too long, and then eventually it's going to give out. But
yeah, I would say don't do that. Like if you have main left and main right, you don't want to take main left, put a Y cable on it, and go into inputs A and B, and then turn those all the way up for more volume. That's not best practice for sure.
Well, and punch and volume and stuff also come down to just clarity, which might be a mixed thing for you. That just work on kind of carving out frequencies so that everything has its own place in the sonic realm.
Right.
There. Right. And then that'll give you more punch, because you're not, if you toss a high pass on, you can toss a high pass on pretty much every vocal, and everything except for bass and, toms and kick.
Yeah.
For the most part. And you'll find that your low end just really starts being a lot more clear and punchy if you don't have a bunch of stuff competing with it.
Right. Yeah, let's that'll be our last point, if you don't mind. I want to get into that, because I feel like if you don't know about using high pass filters, that is one of the things that can really make like a band mix or a multi-person mix.
Mm-hmm.
You're a solo guy, and you kind of want stuff, and it's not going to hurt you. But if you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 channels going, talk about the high pass filter and how you use it.
Yeah, the high pass is just.
I think on the touch mix it's called low cut.
Yes, it is. But essentially, every instrument has a certain range that they operate frequency wise. So a keyboard is very much, it's got a full size, has 88 keys, but really you don't need a lot of super low end, 80 hertz, like kicky stuff to be coming through, because it's more of a percussive instrument. So you can typically dip out a lot of that low end, or just high pass it up to I do sometimes 150 or 200 or low cut up to 200, 250, just to have it cut through and stay out of the way of the bass player.
Right.
Because the bass player is going to be occupying that lower range, and then a little bit of, I like to boost at about 1 point, 1K, 1.3K. Just to give a little bit of finger action and stuff on there. But it's a great tool to basically say this is a higher tonal instrument, and I don't need any of that low stuff, because that's not where this instrument is shining, and that's not where its money notes are. That's not what I'm hearing from this instrument.
What about drums and vocals for high pass or low cut?
Drums normally I'll low cut the snare up to maybe 100 hertz. Kick, I don't typically low cut. I let that just be, just that low end just really hit. But I might add in some 1.5K or 3K or something for a little more attack if I'm not getting it, a little more beater slap in there. And I might dip out around 400 or 500 hertz, so that you're just getting the low and the high, and then you've got that middle area to fill in with other instruments. Vocals, I always low cut.
Wait, drum overheads and toms.
Oh, overheads, I don't typically use overheads for live, but if it's a bigger stage, I'll let the overheads just be overheads, because they're kind of picking up everything. And it's also picking up just the ambience from the stage at that point too. So I'll just honestly just set whatever the preset is on the touch mix for overheads.
Yeah.
Because that's just great. And you guys have a little bit of EQ going on there, but it's always been fantastic just out of the gate.
For drums, would you mic a couple of toms before putting 2 overheads up?
Depends on the room.
Yeah.
It depends on how many inputs I'm using.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I will mic up toms before I mic up overheads.
Yeah.
Or I might toss, one mic in between. If the drummer's only using 2 rack toms, I'll just pop one right in between to pick up both as kind of an area mic, and then toss up an overhead, as well, if I'm running out of inputs. But
I find that kick doesn't travel well at all, and it's good to have that in the PA.
Yeah.
Snare travels. To me, it's good to have it if you're in a big room and stuff like that, but in a small room, that thing can be super loud.
If you're doing rock music, if you're not, if it dips down to a ballad though, and you got those drummers that are, or those bands that one song is really big and rocking, and the next one's very dynamic, and he's using brushes and stuff. It all depends on what's in their set.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I do agree with you there.
Yeah, a lot of times kick for sure, and then for me, I'm on the fence. I probably would mic toms, way before doing overheads. To me, overheads are trouble. when you think about overheads on a live stage with monitors and all this stuff, a lot of times that's the thing that drives you crazy, like dealing with feedback and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
You know,
I hardly ever put overheads in the monitors though, unless somebody's, you know, monitoring is in-ears.
yeah, right.
And then it's nice to have because you don't have any feedback going on. But
Yeah. And then and then vocals, high pass or low cut. Like how do you do that?
yeah, high pass or low cut. Normally up to about 150, 200, depending on the voice.
Yeah.
If it's that, you know, if the singer is that very like brassy tone, then I'll cut a little higher just to get it to keep it nice and brassy. And the thing is, like, you get so much bleed from other microphones on stage, and especially if the singer is singing dynamically or isn't right up on the mic the entire time.
Yeah.
You're going to get so much bleed from guitars, from drums, from cymbals, from all this other stuff that's just going to be kind of muddying up your mix. So the more that you can do to EQ and kind of present each individual input as best you can with what frequencies that instrument is putting out,
the
better, you know. And it's just going to help clean up your mix because you're not going to have a bunch of rumble. If you think about it this way, like, you know, you've got a singer standing in front of, here's the scenario, singer standing in front of a guitar and bass cab, and the guitar and bass cab are going crazy. Like, singer is singing slightly off mic. What are you getting in that microphone? You're getting his voice when he's singing, and when he's not, you're getting bass and guitar.
Yeah.
And you're getting bass and guitar a split second after the microphone that's on the bass cab and the guitar cab are getting it.
Right.
So it's just adding all of this mud that you don't need. And one of the best things to do to clean that up is simply to throw high pass or low cut.
Right.
On that input.
Yeah.
And that'll give you more punch because you're not, you know, the only things that are occupying that range are the instruments that are occupying that range in the speakers.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I could talk about this all day long.
I know, this is fun, man. I was about to go grab a beer and keep talking about it.
So I want to do it again. So maybe in a couple weeks you'll be free. We can talk about like breaking down EQ tricks or something like that. Because
for sure.
One of the things I wanted to ask you before, how did you learn this stuff, and what resources can you possibly recommend? You know, did you study, like, did you go to school for audio stuff?
I did, but I did after I had been doing it for a long time. Yeah. So I started running sound like in high school.
Yeah.
Kind of started with my dad's band up in the Bay Area, and that was just insane, man. Like before, while I was starting out. So my dad's band, the Internationals and the Chico Bavarian Band up in San Francisco Bay Area, they do the San Francisco Oktoberfest every year. This year excluded because of COVID, but that's nuts because they've got at least like 18 brass players, all with individual mics, and then a 4-piece combo, including a full drum kit, playing for. It used to be at a Pier 48 in San Francisco, which is this giant pier building that's all just metal and concrete and reverberant. Yeah. And you get about 5,000 people in there per session.
Whoa.
And, you know, the crowd is sitting at 120 decibels.
Right.
Or 108 decibels or whatever. And then the band's got to be over that. So we're setting up delay speakers, all this stuff. And when I was in high school, I used to just go and help out a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
And then by the time that I got out of high school, I would go back every year and help run sound.
Yeah.
And they had everything set up from a side stage mix position that was a bunch of submixed different boards. And so if you ever got feedback from anything, there was like 9 different places that you had to go and troubleshoot.
Yeah.
And is it this one off stage that's, is it one of the horn mics that's running through this board, or is it one of the combo mics or one of the drum mics or something that's up on the stage? So then I'd have to like run up and like check and see if anything's, getting a little heinous. And yeah, it was crazy. But so I did that for a while, ran sound here and there for, different friends bands and churches and stuff. And then after I left the Young Americans Performing Arts Group, which I was in with our good buddy Nick Semino, from DJE Sound and Lighting.
Yeah.
Nick ended up giving me a job right when DJE was kind of starting up in 2010, and I just pretty much learned from him. And he'd we'd tag team some events together and stuff. And you're constantly being put in these kind of throw and go scenarios.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to learn. So I'd say like, and then, I went to school for audio engineering, but that was more for like recording engineering.
Yeah.
Than live, but definitely the live experience helped. And then now getting into, I worked for Nick and Ted for better part of a decade, and learned so much, and going from small rooms to big rooms to school gyms to, board rooms to big festival venues and all that kind of stuff. So it's always different, but it's always the same concepts.
Yeah. So I think that's really cool experience. So experience is where you kind of learn most everything.
Yeah.
I kind of see live sound like versus recording. Live sound, you're kind of always trying to solve problems in the moment. And usually the problems are like things like feedback, and you're trying to figure out like how to get the best situation you can with, it's happening now. So
before it all changes in 5 seconds.
There's like in a recording studio, you have all the time in the world to create whatever you want to create. So there's not really any feedback issues and stuff like that. What about like, I find myself sometimes like I'll be, mixing at church, and during the sermon, or I'll just like go online and just start learning about stuff with regards to mixing. Like, I'll, best lav mics, EQ ideas or something like that. And, just try to like, just get a vibe. I think there's a ton of information. If you're interested in learning, like to do some stuff, I think experience is the most important thing. Like set up your PA.
Yeah.
And play with the high pass filter, and do all these things, or go to someone's band practice and ask if you can run sound or whatever. Like there's a lot of opportunities to learn by doing, and there's a ton of info out there as well. I feel like a lot of people that I know, they say I'm not technical, or I don't know about this mixing stuff, and it's kind of like, well, it's not that hard. You have to try to like, I don't know, get into it a little bit. But
if it were math, it would be multiplication and division. It's not calculus until you get into.
But like you experience
some of the more crazy stuff, but
just going out and doing it and getting as many experiences as
I think
possible.
that's the most important thing for anybody, man. Like if you want to learn how to do something, go do it. Like don't wait to be taught. Go and mess around with it and figure it out for yourself. Like that's how people got to be so innovative and fix problems and come up with new products, is by teaching themselves and being like, man, like why does this always happen? Somebody should fix that. It's like, no, you should fix that. Like figure something out and do it. But it does take time, but there are really amazing resources online. If you pop in tutorial after anything you want to learn into YouTube, you're
Right.
gonna find something
Yeah.
that explains it in like 15 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
like
Or like EQ for trumpet. Like
yeah,
a whole bunch of info, you know, like
oh yeah,
player shows up, it's like EQ for violin or compression or whatever, you know, sort of thing. What does a compressor do? You know, there's
yeah,
all this stuff, you know. So anyway, we're just babbling. But so, Steve, thank you so much. We're gonna do this again. Maybe we'll
yeah, brother.
keep it a little shorter, even though you know, I've really enjoyed talking to you for sure.
Oh, me too, man. Thank you for having me, Brad.
Yeah. All right. So what is today? Tuesday. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you much.
Are you playing? Are you playing out, or what's up with your like artistry stuff?
I am kind of getting back into another content push for my Patreon. So I just had I'm doing a Patreon page where I'm releasing new music every Tuesday and Thursday.
Cool.
And so last week, I believe I had it's like a 6-song live EP that I released. And then today I put out a video that I did with Warren Hewart for Produce Like a Pro. That was a microphone demo for Jay-Z microphones.
Nice.
It's I guess the co-founder of Blue Microphones has Jay-Z microphones out in Latvia. And
Yeah.
so we were working with their Blueberry mic and did a Beatles cover of I've Got a Feeling, which is really, really fun. And also for any of you guys that are looking for tips and tricks and on EQ and compression and how to do the audio thing, go check out Produce Like a Pro on YouTube. They've got a bunch of tutorial videos and different stuff that's a little more geared for recording arts instead of live sound, but everything translates.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and especially when you're getting into, you know, boards like the Touch Mix that have built-in effects and all that kind of stuff. Like it's a really great learning tool, and Warren does a really great job. Yeah, I've got a full solo piano record coming out on Thursday, which will be volume 9 of my isolation series for
how many
improvisational piano. 10.
Awesome.
About 50 minutes. Yeah. So if you need some music to cook to or put the kids to sleep by, you know, like it's all instrumental and very, very calming and
chill.
Hell of a lot cheaper than therapy. So
yeah,
it's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's awesome. It's cool. Like I get inspired because you're so busy and positive and motivated and all that. So thanks for all that you do, and thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah. So follow Steve Maggiora, and yeah. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good, brother. Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye.